Hey guys, welcome back. This is going to be a little tool video, and in this video we're going to talk about end punches and oblong punches, also known as bag punches. And these are punches or tools that a lot of times when we start out in leathercraft, we're not going to have the money or the knowledge really, or even the need to go and buy all of the sizes and all the different shapes of both of these types of tools. But they are tools that'll save you a lot of time. The nice thing about these tools is you buy them once and you never have to buy them again, usually, unless you've broken them or done something like that. And I'm just going to kind of go through. There are other ways of doing what these tools do. You can definitely use a blade or a knife. They have some different things where you can cut end points on belts or straps or anything like that, as well as for your bag punches. You could certainly do the double hole, cutting in between the two holes to accomplish, say, the slot in a belt where the belt buckle tongue needs to be able to go through to be able to function properly. There are ways to do it without these punches, but they will save you a lot of time in the shop. So they're not a must-have, but they're a probably want to get at some point just to save yourself a lot of unnecessary waste of time trying to do that by hand. So let's hop in the video. I just want to show you how some of these work. All right, so we'll go through these just a little bit here. I just keep mine in a just an old can. They've been in here for, I don't know, 20 years probably. I just keep them in there so that they're not getting banged around too much, but you can reach for them. You can see which one you're trying to get. There's probably better ways to do this with loops around on something to hold them separately. I just have them in here because we're usually using them pretty quickly throughout the day, especially back in the day in the shop. But what we've got here is we've got some oblong punches, and I'll go through the ones I have, and these are just the ones that I use. I have these three I've had since I started working in the shop, and that's a 1/2 inch, a 3/4, and a 1 inch. I found that these will do pretty much anything I've ever had to do. There's times whenever you're going to do something with, like, say, a big 1 3/4, a 2 inch buckle, something like that, then you can double tap the 1 inch to make your slot longer. Now, if you have the means or you want to go and invest in a tool because you do a lot of that type of work, then obviously, yes, buy the right size. This is a 2 inch bag slot punch, and I bought this one mainly just for the pancake knife sheaths. So we're able to cut those belt loop slots with that. When I first started doing them, we only did a few every so often. I would just double tap this and make the slot longer. But this is a much cleaner and more efficient way to do it. This is an expensive tool. I want to say this tool is pushing $100. And so a lot of times we're not going to grab that early on. I don't suggest going and getting one of those if you just got started in leathercraft, unless you want it and you want to have it. That's fine. But these over here are really the ones I've used for my whole career, and they're fine. Now, all of these tools that I have are just simply CS Osborne's. They're not my favorite quality tool that's out there as far as fit and finish and the way they come to you. But if you know how to sharpen them, maintain your tools, and you can accomplish that, you will have to do that when you get these tools. I haven't found that they're really that great when you first get them. And this year at Sheridan, we did buy some tools from Bruce Johnson, and that's who I recommend you getting these tools from if you're going to get these, is buy them from him, because he buys these tools and sharpens them up, and they have really, really good edges on them. So we'll go into like some strap-in punches. These are some of Bruce's here. Got a very good edge on them. They're polished up. They look clean. And as long as you're not banging them around like I am right there, they should last you for many, many years. But these here, I got them kind of mixed up. These here are round end punches. So these here will just create that little rounded tip on any kind of strap, and we'll kind of show some of those. And I've got various sizes of those. I've got some, these are older. I've had these a long time. And don't use them very, very often, but they do come in real handy in pattern making, this big one especially, when you need an arc cut out. It's kind of another video, but you can use these come in more handy than just doing strap ends. But there's all our round ones, and then I've also got the pointed ones as well, and I've got a 1 inch, a 3/4, and this 1/2 inch one here, and I feel like that's probably plenty to have. You could get the 5/8, like I said. You can get, they make a size for every one of these, so you can get as many as you want. But what I started with was the 1 inch and the 3/4, and I'll kind of show you how I use those if you don't have the correct size. I've also got one that's a very large one, and these are just a nice pointed. They also have the blocked off type point. I think it's a French tip. I think this is an English tip. I could have that wrong comment below if I've got that backwards. But anyway, I just always use this nice tapered point here. I like that more than the blocked one. If I've got to do one of those, I usually just cut it with a round knife. So the first one I want to show you is I'm going to show you this is an 1.5 inch strip of leather here, and we're going to use this tool here, which is 1 3/4 inches wide at the back. We bought this one years ago because I could end point my flank billets for my saddles and things like that, as well as get our belt tip. So it was a one purchase tool, did 2 jobs, which is always a winner. But like I said, they do make an 1.5 inch one, which is proper if you're doing belts, because it's going to give it a little bit more roundness off the shoulders there, which I've always traditionally just sanded off and made do. So I'll show you here on this 1.5 inch how you kind of adapt that tool, since it's not the actual right size. It's a little more tricky, but you just have to take the point of that and center that on the belt strip from side to side, and then look at your back 2 points back here and make sure that you've got it spaced. It's not, shifted over one way or the other. And then you hold that tool firmly and it'll go right through and it'll make that pointed punch there. So it'll make that nice tapered tip there for our belts. You can do the same thing with other tools as well. Like I said, I've got a little 1/2 inch strip right here. Doesn't do the prettiest job when we get that small, say using this 3/4 inch punch, but it'll work in a pinch to where you can at least get it to where it has some point to it, and then you've got a little bit of a point. Now, if you've got the proper size tool, which is this is a 1/2 inch, same tool manufacturer, just sharpened up by Bruce. We can put that on there. Now the points line up on each side of your strip of leather. So when you put that tool on there, you can line up your back end here of the tool along the edge of your material, and it fits properly. So now when we punch that one, you get a much more pleasing looking tip on there. As far as that goes, it doesn't look quite as choppy. I'll show you real quick with this bigger one how kind of the difference. So that's the one done with the proper tool. That's the one done with one that's too big. So you can see the difference. You just don't have quite as much of that shoulder relief off the tail end of that. But so the proper size does make a difference. So we'll show you here with the round punches. I've got a 5/8 inch strip of leather right here and the proper size end punch for that. Put that on there. Again, it matches up much better. And then it makes a nice rounded point on there. So that makes it a lot nicer. Now, if we go to the 1 inch and use back to the pointed one, use that one, it actually fits that 1 inch strap much better. Still center your point on there, and then we can go through on that, and it makes a nice punch there. And that's kind of the deal on the end punches. They're pretty simple, they're pretty straightforward, but they also come in handy anytime you're needing to, if you wanted to take this strip of leather right here, and you're going to put this is 1.5 inches wide, but you're going to have, for some reason on a piece of harness or something that you're working on, you need a 3/4 inch D in here. And so, but you want this width outside of the D. You can come in here, and I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to kind of show you, but you can come in here, whatever that measurement is, you'll put you a couple marks in there of say 3/4 of an inch where you need that. And you can take this big end punch here that you may not use very often, and you can lob that out, like just a little bite of it out of there. And now you can come back here on this other side and do the same thing. And so now you've got something that looks like that. So now when you fold that around, you've still got the meat of your width of the material that you're wanting to use, but now it'll fit a much smaller piece of hardware, which may be your goal with whatever that job is. And so that tool is, the rounded ones especially are very handy to have in multiple sizes, because there's a lot of opportunity in working with leather where you want to do something like that. Because if you were just to run this little strip, you don't get as many stitches on the material. It's a smaller piece, could break easier, depends on what you're making, right? So you can run into some pretty handy little things for that. Now say we want to put a bag slot right in here, and it's a 3/4 inch buckle. Maybe it's not a D, it's a buckle. I'm going to take this 3/4 inch bag punch right here. If you can see that, all it is just an oblong punch, or what we used to call in the shop a bag punch. And we're just going to put that right there dead center line that up. You want to use the bag slot that is appropriate for the size of hardware you're using. So 5/8 or a 3/4 inch buckle would work fine with this bag slot. Some 3/4 inch buckles may need a 1 inch, but it's going to need to be narrower because your material is 3/4. But you just need a little more length. So then if you look there, we've put a slot in there. Now we can slide a buckle in there and have the tongue where it can function in that material. And so they make those for, 3/4, ½ inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4, 2 inch, 3 inch. I don't know. They probably make all the sizes basically. So you can buy all of these tools to do everything you need to do. But like I said, at the end of the day, if I'm talking to somebody that's just like, I'm tired of cutting my endpoints by hand, or I'm tired of punching 2 holes and then cutting in between to make my bag slots, I'm going to tell you right now which ones I would recommend, and the same ones that I started with, because that's the only thing I know how to tell you. And I would get a ½ inch, a 3/4, a 1 inch bag slot as you can. If you're doing a lot of belts, get the 1 inch one. That one's going to work fine for that belt buckle. If you're doing a lot of head stalls and just dog collars, things like that, and you can only buy one, maybe just buy the 3/4. Buy the other 2 when you can. As far as end punches, I would recommend, because it's going to make your patterning and your setups a little easier, is go ahead and get a couple bigger round end punches. And this one here is a 1 1/4. You may want to go ahead and get a 1 1/2 inch, make it easy. Maybe you could round end some belts or some straps. And then I would recommend this one here, and I think this one is a 3/4. It might be a 1 inch. Yep, it's a 3/4 inch. I would recommend this one as well, just because I do have many times I use this tool. But like I said, these aren't mandatory. It's just if you're wanting to kind of add to your collection. And then I would get a big 1 3/4 end punch with that English point on there. That's going to be appropriate for a lot of different wider strap belts, things like that you're working on. You can use there. And then if you need another one, maybe the 1 inch. If you're doing more, again, head stalls, things like that, I'd stick with the 3/4. I know that's a lot, but I'm just, I know it's a bunch to go and buy all of these. And like I said, it took a long time to get any real grouping of these tools, and I just kind of got them as I had to have them. And so do what's right for you and what's right for your shop. We're all building different things. So whatever you're building the most of, kind of look at that. What thing are you doing repetitively that takes more time than it should because they make a tool that will do it in one hit, and then see if it justifies you going and getting that tool. So hope that helps. Just a little rundown on some end punches and some oblong punches, and have fun with it. We'll see you all in the next video.